Hey everyone, it's Callum from Cagefront here. Welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. We have UFC Fight Night, Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov taking place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And oh my oil money, this card is stacked, and it is so stacked. As a fight night, it's literally looking better than UFC 312, and I'm going to that event. That's how rough this is. But the reason why this card is so stacked, I mean, we've got Sergei Pavlovich coming through halfway up the main card, trying to get back into the win column. We've obviously got Izzy versus Imavov, both of them trying to get into that title picture. And then we have got an unorthodox technical masterclass between Shara Bullet versus Michael Venom Page coming up to middleweight. So in this video, I'm going to be predicting and breaking down every single fight on the card, as well as breaking down and predicting all of the card's best moments. So without further ado, let's kick it off with Jamal Pogues versus Hamdy Abdelwahab. Now, starting off with the big boys, we look at Hamdy to start off with. This guy, in a sense, has momentum, and I say in a sense because you can clearly see he's undefeated at 5-0. He's got a 100% KO record, but he's almost been out for 3 whole years, and for 2 of those years he's been suspended because he tried to hide the use of an anabolic agent, basically a steroid, and did not declare it. So he was tampering with the USADA testing, and he did not have a reasonable excuse. So he got suspended for that 1.5 to about 2 years. So rightfully so, Buddy's been out for a while, and he's had one UFC fight against Don'Tale Mayes, which was obviously overturned because that's where he got suspended. And his last 4 fights, we can't really go off that too much, to be honest. The caliber of opposition just isn't there, especially in comparison to Jamal Pogues. But at least in that matchup against Don'Tale Mayes, he did show some positive attributes within that matchup. He was surprisingly fast on the feet. Considering how compact this dude is, very, very surprisingly fast on the feet. And he's good at lunging in with strikes to make up for that pretty poor reach in terms of going against heavyweights at 73 inches. Because when he fought Don'Tale Mayes has a 9-inch reach advantage over him, and then you compare that to Pogues, who only has 4 inches more reach than he does. So it's going to be more effective for him to actually land those clean, straight strikes. And not to mention that on the feet, when it comes to his actual base, he's got a Greco-Roman base, so the suplex that he landed in that fight against Don'Tale Mayes, absolutely fantastic. He's actually pretty underrated overall when it comes to mixing up his game, and ultimately just pretty impressive at both levels. But the issue that I do find with him is that going through the fight, he just does struggle with that cardio. He labors pretty hard, and that's what happened to him against Don'Tale Mayes. He was piecing up Don'Tale Mayes in the first round, but going through the second and third, you could tell that he was getting really tired, and then Don'Tale Mayes started piecing him up. Now, when we look at Pogues has fought better opposition. I mean, he's fought triple the amount of fighters, and he's only lost to Mick Parkin in the UFC, who is ranked now and is undefeated. So it really speaks to Jamal Pogues and who he has fought and the wins that he has gotten now as well. And he's definitely faster than Hamdy as well. Faster, especially with the hands. His hands have looked very nice recently. He's got very good boxing, very good knees up the middle. He's very good at leading with his straight right when he's in southpaw. He actually does switch stance quite well, and you can honestly see when this fight does happen, you'll be able to see Pogues give Hamdy trouble as the fight goes on realistically, as well as just in those striking exchanges, because Hamdy, he is durable and he is good at landing those straight strikes, but Pogues, the big issue is Pogues' counter striking and his ability to just get the hands to the mark quick, and he is going to be quicker at doing that than Hamdy is realistically. The big issue for Pogues, which he has improved on more so, it's the wrestling. The wrestling of Hamdy is going to be the biggest crux. If Hamdy can get him down straight away, then that's going to be a problem. But he's got improved takedown defense recently, especially with stopping double legs, but single legs can be a bit tricky for him. That's what we've seen in his last fight against Peterson. That's where it was a little bit tricky in terms of trying to stop those single legs. But overall, with the activity, the boxing base that he does have, the deeper just round experience he does have too, I'm going to have to take Pogues by a decision here. I think that he can really fatigue Hamdy, really fluster him with the boxing, just busting his face up in that first round. I really think he can. I just think that he's going to be able to just wane him out and get through to a decision win. It's boxing versus wrestling here. This is the reason why they're basically a pick-em on. They're pretty much exactly split as a pick-em, is because you got the boxing versus the wrestling realistically, with some power in there from both. But Jamal Pogues, triple the experience, the activity as well, going against Hamdy, who's 3 years out. I got to be taking Pogues in this one. Moving up to Lucas Alexander versus Bogdan Grad. Now, Lucas Alexander, he is the bigger guy here, and he's got some pretty good hand speed. He's pretty fast, but that's like really all I can see from him. He's looked pretty mediocre so far. He got taken out by Jekasaragi very badly in his last fight, got slept cold, and he has not fought in over a year from that. Now, Grad, he got finished by Tom Nolan on Dana White's Contender Series and then came back strong, fought to a split decision, was very active in his last fight, and he's got a very high output, aggressive base style, and that was shown in that fight, and he's got good KO power. The only thing I'd say with him when it comes to the feet that's a big issue is the strike defense. The strike defense is not great. He stays in the pocket way too long, and he doesn't really have that good a head movement. He's just so locked into taking the opponent's head off, and that would be a big issue if Lucas Alexander was this really big heavy finisher, or was at least like somewhat technical, but he's realistically just not. And Bogdan Grad, I think he's just going to find a lot of success in this fight if Lucas Alexander isn't able to take him out. Because, I mean, Lucas Alexander, he's got realistically, he's got no ground game. He's been finished 3 times by submissions. He's just got the fast hand speed there. But Grad, he's just that type of fighter stylistically, with that aggressive forward pressure, just does not stop and does not lack cardio either. He is going to make this messy. And honestly, between these two in an exchange, I am happily taking Grad in an exchange if they do just start trading. And that's where I believe that Grad's going to drop him, and I think he is going to hunt for a submission. He loves a choke, loves a guillotine especially, and I could see him dropping Alexander, and then I think Alexander could possibly honestly hope shoot on him if he gets flustered, and then I just see Bogdan Grad sinking in a guillotine round 1, especially when they're dry, or possibly a rear naked choke from there if he actually gets him to the ground anyway. I think he hurts Alexander and then he submits him. Moving up the card to Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Now, it's pretty smart from Mayra Bueno Silva, in my opinion, to drop back down a weight class, back to flyweight, because it's more natural for her. It gives her more of a stronger advantage in ground-based exchanges, thanks to the size that she does have, and she is very tricky with her jiu-jitsu, which she could catch a lot of people out with. But Jasudavicius, stylistically, is the wrong opponent to face off the bat, coming back down, and just to really find success with that submission-based game, unless she hurts Jasudavicius, which I do not see happening, because she has a very, very good chin. I just don't see her being able to take out Jasudavicius unless Jasudavicius simply makes a mistake with that wrestling style she does have. But from what we've seen so far, she doesn't make those mistakes. I mean, she's never been finished in her career. She is flying right now. She is looking fantastic. She is spearheading Canada at the moment. Not Mike Malott, it's Jasmine Jasudavicius, and yeah, she's one of the fighters that does have that really good, just prominent physical strength in that division, and her striking is getting a lot better. I mean, don't even need to talk about her ground and pound when it came to fighting Priscilla Cachoeira. She absolutely murdered her, and that's the problem with Mayra Bueno Silva on the ground. She is consistently trying to hunt for those submissions, which she is great at. It's a cost that could just absolutely take her out. I mean, Jasudavicius with that ground and pound, if she catches Bueno Silva in a wrong position, she will just elbow the living shit out of her. So there is that trade-off there. Now, that I think it just really comes down to a mistake from Jasmine, unless Mayra Bueno Silva can somehow overpower Jasmine, but I just don't see it happening. But I believe that Jasmine is going to be able to get this one done fairly easily, but I don't believe that she's going to be able to finish Mayra Bueno Silva. I think Mayra Bueno Silva, credit to her realistically, when it comes to the submissions on the ground, she is pretty safe on the ground, and she is durable as well. She's technically actually has never been finished, because she did get finished by a doctor's stoppage. So aside from that, realistically, both of them are so durable. It's going to be a decision win for Jasmine Jasudavicius, unless Bueno Silva comes out very strong, confident, starts landing good shots and backs Jasudavicius up. That could possibly happen in the first round, but aside from that, I think Jasudavicius is at least getting a 29-28 here, but I honestly am definitely on the hype train of Jasudavicius. 30-27 for me. Moving up the card to Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hadzovic. Now, this is a needed step back in competition for Terrence McKinney, because he is honestly needing this back up in competition to stay afloat in the UFC, because he's been win, loss, win, double loss, win, you know, and it's hard for him because he has fought very, very good opposition, and that literally he's only lost to very good opposition. So it is tough for him. They've thrown him in the deep end, but it's like the reward that he got himself was like his worst nightmare. Like what he did to Matt Frivola, getting the fastest knockout in lightweight history, that just set the bar way too high for him consistently. And look at Matt Frivola now, he's getting chinned left, right, and center. So Terrence McKinney is kind of following suit in that. And then when we look at Damir Hadzovic, I mean, Damir Hadzovic, he is a guy that he's not looking good. I've got to say, I'm not a super big fan in terms of being out for so long. I mean, he's had injuries and whatnot. He's coming off some pretty bad injuries. He's been out almost 3 years. I mean, he's had consistent ACL and meniscus injuries and visa issues as well. So he hasn't really caught a break. And the problem is, in that 3 years, the guy's 38 years old now. Now, that is obviously all detriment to him, but stylistically, it's going to be interesting because you look at the record of the KO subs and decisions, right? Look on the screen and you can see Terrence McKinney, he's never been to a decision before. So he's a KO and submission machine, but then Damir Hadzovic, he is very, very hard to finish. A very difficult guy to finish, but looking through it, I mean, Damir Hadzovic, with the 3 years off on top of it, and the way that he looked against Mark Chikazi in his last fight that he had, he was getting thrown around absolutely everywhere. And unless Damir Hadzovic can land a Hail Mary on Terrence McKinney's now pretty much glass chin, I got to take Terrence. And I think Terrence, honestly, with the way that Hadzovic was controlled so badly against a guy that's a kickboxer, Terrence McKinney does have that ability on the ground if he can get it there, and I believe he honestly can, because Terrence McKinney, honestly, best thing to do is to get this to the ground and try and hunt for a submission, because if he gets chinned again by Damir Hadzovic, he could seriously get cut. He could, honestly, and I just don't think Terrence should be taking that risk. It's very dangerous. I think Terrence McKinney could honestly clip Hadzovic at the end of one of his strikes and then drop him and get the submission. I definitely think that could be a possibility, or he could honestly just take him down, because Hadzovic's takedown defense is absolutely abysmal. So Terrence McKinney realistically should have a bit of free range here, let's be honest, and I think that he is going to be hunting for that 7th career rear naked choke, and yeah, I think it's going to be over for Damir Hadzovic. He just doesn't have the tools to get it done, and Terrence, he honestly does. Moving up to the man, the myth, the MMA godfather, Daddy Gaziev. He is back in action, and our Lord and Savior is going to get it done. I think he's going to get it done against Thomas Peterson. And Thomas Peterson, don't get me wrong, recently he's actually looked pretty good. And I'm not even going to lie, a 4-1 dog, he actually could be worth putting some money on. I won't even lie. But Shamil Gaziev, genuinely, not talking shit, I think that he actually can get this one done. And statistically, that's down to that big, fat, healthy, 100% takedown defense that he does have. Because Peterson, primarily the guy is a wrestler who is good at entering on singles, getting them down and positioning himself well on top. But getting Shamil down, I think that's easier said than done, realistically. Shamil's actually decent on the ground, 3-0 with submissions, and does have some actual pretty decent wrestling himself. But even on the feet. Thomas Peterson, from what we've seen of him, he's not bad on the feet when it comes to striking, but man, he takes damage. He really does take damage. And Gaziev on the feet, 8-1 with KOs. He will outwork Thomas Peterson on the feet with the boxing that he does have. I think it's pretty simple for me there. I mean, with Shamil not going against an absolute jab machine who is a lot fitter than him over 5 rounds like Jairzinho, this is just a matchup that is much more suited to him. And yeah, honestly, if we're getting the Peterson that fought Pogues, as I said, in that matchup, well, I can see Shamil Gaziev being able to finish him pretty quick, to be honest, and I believe that he is going to get the KO TKO. I just think the power that he's got in his hands, the reach, the accuracy he does have, I think there's just going to be a struggle for Thomas Peterson if he can't get this to the ground. And as well as Thomas Peterson's lack of head movement, it's just going to give Gaziev that prime opportunity to be able to take him out. I've got the big man, Big Daddy Gaziev, getting the KO TKO in round 1. Moving up the card to Muhammad Naimov versus Khan Offley. Now, both of these guys are coming off losses. We've got Muhammad Naimov, who fought against Felipe Lima, who is looking like one of the best prospects in literal MMA, period. The guy is absolutely insane. And then we've got Khan Offley coming off an absolutely horrible finish to Mayra Santos. Got put out cold. Bad highlight reel against him. And look, now he's now training at City Kickboxing with Israel Adesanya and all the team over there. So his takedown defense and his strike defense / offense will be targeted heavily through that camp without a doubt. But will it be enough? Not against a consistent top 20 contender in Muhammad Naimov. I just don't see that being possible. I think Naimov, he's just more active on the feet. He's got a much stronger resume for sure, and he's just stronger in general. He's stronger overall offensive ground game. And I will say, like, when it comes to any form of wrestling and clinch-based game, he needs to be careful of the BJJ game of Khan Offley, which is very underrated, because Khan Offley is very good at capitalizing on positions to try and find chokes, but Naimov will be drilling that submission defense after he's literally just had his first finish loss to Felipe Lima, which was a submission. So he is going to be more so adapted and aware. He's got the physical advantages on the feet. He's got the power advantage. And honestly, I'm just more even so concerned about Khan Offley coming back, because when he got cracked that badly, his chin, I just don't see it being the same. And Naimov within this fight, honestly, I think he's going to be able to do some damage. But Offley, he is first and foremost a defensive based fighter. He's good at counter wrestling, he's good at scrambling, he's good at obviously on the ground with BJJ. So I am going to say that Naimov is going to take a pretty grueling decision here. I think there's going to be a lot of clinch work, there's going to be a lot of time on the ground, and I think Naimov overall, though, I think he's going to be able to edge it on the feet. He's just, you know, he's bigger, he's got 4 inches of reach advantage. I mean, he's beat guys like Nate Wood, who is very proficient in striking. Yeah, I see Naimov being able to get this one done by a decision, but don't be surprised if we see like a 2nd or 3rd round KO TKO if Offley's chin just cannot handle it. Moving up the card to Faris Ziam versus Mike Davis. Now, both of these guys are in pretty top form at the moment. Mike Davis, he took out Nathan Levy pretty much with absolute ease, absolutely dominated him, and now he's on a 4-fight win streak, and the last person the guy lost to was Gilbert Burns, and that's when Gilbert Burns wasn't even that old. So he is looking very impressive, and Faris Ziam, he is on a 4-fight win streak at the moment. He just sent Matt Frivola to the absolute bloody shadow realm. I'm shitting on Matt Frivola this video, but anyway, we move. Now, Ziam he's the more like decorated striker overall between the two of them. He's got that French kickboxing base, but I'd say Davis is just the more well-rounded fighter overall in comparison. So This one is not easy to predict at all. I mean, Davis, he's very composed, he's very calculated, he's got very good power in his hands, and he is a bit cleaner on the ground, but I'm loving the levels of improvement from Ziam. I mean, it just with each performance that's gone on between their win streaks, I think Ziam is just looking absolutely fantastic. His distance management has gotten so much better, along with his short range striking as well, especially his clinch striking that he took Matt Frivola out with. And look, he might not have like the same output. I mean, he throws like half the amount of shots that Davis does, but he is more accurate on the feet than Davis is overall between their careers. And he's got the longer reach, and as well with the distance management that he's improved on, it could spell a bit of trouble for Davis realistically, and especially with Ziam's style, because he loves using straight strikes. He's got the straights, like the jabs, twos, he's got teep kicks as well, and just with the tools there, ultimately I'm liking it more for him. And this is obviously razor close, but with Ziam as a 2-to-1 dog and making those improvements and that striking stylistic just ability against Mike Davis, I'm honestly thinking that he's going to be able to take this by a split decision here. I think if we get the accuracy versus the output and Davis really pushes his takedown offensive game early, then he could possibly get this done for sure. But I think Ziam with the takedown defense, he has improved a lot, and I think that can hold up. So there's many questions to this fight. I mean, it's literally the definition of razor close, but I am liking the overall improvements in Ziam's game a bit more in this point. But I would not be putting this anywhere near my bet slip, but I'm taking the underdog in this one. Now moving on, we got Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. Now this is honestly low-key the fight that I'm most keen for on this card from like a non-casual standpoint, because we got Saeed Nurmagomedov, who is honestly like the Nurmagomedov who is just forgotten about. He's not like Khabib related to Khabib at all. He doesn't train with them or anything. He used to train with them back in the past quite a while ago, but not recently at all. But they're not related. And look, ultimately with the last name, he is the most underrated fighter with that last name, is basically what I'm trying to get at. He's never been finished. He's improved his striking extremely well over the last few years. This flashy technical kickboxing that he has is very nice to watch, and he is absolutely filthy with his guillotines. He's hit 4 in his career so far, and when he sinks one, like the opponent's out in like 5 seconds max. Like they are tapping like crazy. He is very, very good. He's only lost to top opposition. He's lost to Jonathan Martinez and the absolute multi-killer from UFC 311, Raoni Barcelos. He's lost to both of them, really based on activity and whatnot when it comes to fighting those guys and just chopping down the striking. And when we look at Vinicius Oliveira on the other side, this guy is a very, very hot prospect right now. He absolutely murdered Bernardo Sopai with the flying knee, and more impressively, realistically, shut down Ricky Simon, who is a former top 15 fighter, absolutely chewed his lead leg apart and stopped the wrestling almost completely, which is exactly what he wants to do against Saeed Nurmagomedov. He wants to bust up his front leg, stop the flashy spinning strikes, and then just make sure that Saeed Nurmagomedov cannot hunt that guillotine on the ground. But that is easier said than done. I mean, Vinicius, he's very good on the feet for sure and is more naturally active with his output, but Saeed Nurmagomedov is very precise with his counter striking, especially with the right straight down the pipe. He's landed that a lot against pretty tough opposition. And Vinicius Oliveira, the guy is good, he's flashy, he's strong, he's got good striking and a lot of KO power, but every single loss he has had has been by KO TKO. He is kind of a kill or be killed in that sense, especially when he gets into his groove. And when we look at Saeed versus Vinicius, Saeed with the spinning based strikes and then Vinicius kind of going all out, it's very prone to seeing a finish in this fight. But when we look at Saeed Nurmagomedov, when he used his counter striking very well, I recommend you watch the Silva Andrade fight. Busted him up completely while using very good lateral movement, which can cause issues for Vinicius Oliveira when he's trying to get combinations off. But ultimately, they are both very clean on the feet, but I've got to be edging it to Saeed here. He's just more precise. He's just as fast. He's faced much higher caliber opposition realistically, and has the offensive submission and wrestling threat to deal with Oliveira on the ground. Now, this is not a fun one for the bet slips because there's realistically able to be any outcome here when it comes to a finish or a decision. Now, Saeed, he does take risks when it comes to his spinning strikes, and with that speed and timing from Oliveira, he could get caught on the flip side. Like, it's very tricky to say, but when we look at the outcome, I'm going to go with a Saeed decision, and I think it's going to be a 29-28 decision. I think Vinicius Oliveira, he goes in, he steals the second round with that explosivity he does have after going one round down. From the first round, I think Saeed takes that just off the unorthodox strikes that he starts landing. He really just uses them straight off the bat. And I think Vinicius is going to take some time to actually get used to it. So I think Saeed, through that first round, he's going to be able to take it on volume. I don't think any of them land super flush, but then I think Vinicius comes back and gets really aggressive, starts cutting Saeed off and takes that second round. Then the third round is where I think Saeed will really implement level changes, not to necessarily get it to the ground, but I think he's really going to try and implement like single legs to then throw shots over the top and land on Oliveira. So I think he's going to be able to land the cleaner shots overall, possibly get a takedown in there as well in the third round, and ultimately steal that round for a 29-28 decision. This is a sick fight, but a damn difficult one to bet on. Moving up to Alexander Volkov's best buddy versus Shamil Gaziev's absolute worst nightmare. We have Sergei Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And we look at Pavlovich, the guy's on a 2-fight skid, which none of us would have seen coming because he was just absolutely killing everyone. And I can see people liking Jairzinho stylistically here. When we saw what happened to Volkov, I can imagine, a lot of people thinking, okay, Volkov, he is kind of that long guy. He's good with his jab, and he was picking Pavlovich apart for 3 rounds. And can Rozenstruik do the same? No, he can't. The speed and the physical advantages are not the same for Rozenstruik as they were for Volkov overall, because he's got double the reach disadvantage. Pavlovich his reach is way longer realistically in comparison, and with that, if you can't be landing that jab off it, Pavlovich is going to land, and if Pavlovich lands, you go to sleep. So yeah, it's not really ideal, and Pavlovich, going against Volkov is the best way to train for a guy like Rozenstruik realistically. And yeah, I just don't see much of an opportunity for Rozenstruik to get this one done, because this, for starters, is no way this is going to the ground, because their statistics are literally 0 for everything when it comes to ground game. And then we look at Jairzinho. If he is going to try and win this, it's literally got to be like a Volkov-based performance where he has a crystal clear jab just straight off the bat, and he's able to just keep Pavlovich at bay. But as I said, it's not happening. I just see that with the 6-inch reach disadvantage, Pavlovich, he's just going to put in the work. He's going to be able to land those shots, and realistically, he's more accurate as well. Rozenstruik doesn't have the KO power either. I mean, that one-hit KO power, which is a huge problem because Pavlovich does on the other side. So the moment they get into an exchange, yeah, he's getting busted up. And he's not fighting, Jairzinho is not fighting a guy that is so, complacent within his movement like a Gaziev or a Tuivasa either. So he can't just jab Pavlovich's head off. And that's where I think Pavlovich, he's going to come through, get an Ngannou-style KO. I think Pavlovich backs Rozenstruik against the cage, and he just swings for the fences and takes him out, similar to the way Ngannou took Rozenstruik out. Pavlovich has got that power, he's got very good boxing, and yeah, he's getting back in the win column with this one. Now, moving up to our technical masterclass, we have Shara Bullet versus Michael Venom Page. And my God, if I thought Saeed versus Oliveira or Ziam versus Davis was difficult to bloody pick, this is a absolutely ridiculously complex puzzle to bet on, because this stylistically can be an absolute barn burner, or it can be absolutely dead. I mean, they could be flinging every technique under the damn sun at each other, or they could just be reading each other for 15 minutes. So it's going to be very interesting to see, even to the point if one of them shoots a takedown, which they've been kind of going back and forth with. But with how these guys are and the outputs that they have shown in their careers, I think we're in for a pretty good fight. So let's look at each of them stylistically. We got Shara Bullet. He hunts the legs. He loves the body work early, and he likes to wear the opponent down to then try and finish them off late, and try and really lower their guard, and then just use crazy techniques when their guard's lowered, like hook kicks and double spinning back fists that he likes to finish people with. And by doing that as well, I mean, he does it well because he's got a very high strike accuracy. He lands at 70% clip and a very high output at 7 significant strikes landed per minute. And then MVP on the other side, granted he's 7 years older and not in a good way, but the guy is an unorthodox bloody laser beam. He has pretty much as much, if not more power realistically than Shara Bullet in terms of 1 to 2 punch combinations. And when we look at him as a laser beam, I mean, the guy is just his strike accuracy is ridiculous. 75% strike accuracy. So the likelihood of either of these guys missing anyway is pretty much almost null and void, but they are also both defensively sound as well, especially with their head movement. Both of them have very good slips. And when we look at MVP, he's more diverse with his switch stance style and has more experience against better opposition than Shara Bullet, but he's coming up to middleweight, which he has not fought at since 2013, where he won by a rear naked choke on the regional scene. So there's not too much to go off because he was a lot younger back then. But with the frame that he has, he'd be more than comfortable making middleweight. 6'3", 79 inches of reach, which is a 6-inch advantage over Shara Bullet, which is humongous. And he's also got the ground game offensive threat, which Bullet, we don't really know. It's just unknown. So I can't say it's good, can't say it's bad realistically. He's just got pretty good elbows off his back. That's literally all we've seen. So I ultimately see this going one of 3 ways. I think Bullet's body and leg strikes early would pay dividends, and then he takes out MVP in rounds 2 or 3. Or MVP lands a very clean 2-strike combination with the power he has in rounds 1 or 2 and then takes out Shara Bullet. Or with what I'm going to go with here, they will both get hurt in the fight, with MVP then stunning Shara in the first. Then the second round becomes a swing round based on volume, which I think that will be for Shara. I think Shara just naturally, I mean, through his career, he just lands more shots overall. Michael Venom Page is more of a sniper. He just tries to target. And then in the third round, I think Shara hurts MVP, which will allow him to take a 29-28 decision, taking rounds 2 and 3 in this one. That's what I believe will happen. It will be a decision for him. Now, I'm liking the age, I'm liking the momentum and the volume here for him, and of course the elephant in the room, it's in the Middle East. So if it's a fight that's very close and it's going to be a bit safer for one of their moneymakers, you're gonna really bet on one of their moneymakers if it's Shara Bullet in the Middle East. Come on. So yeah, ultimately these guys are just 2 neck and neck, and that's where I think Shara Bullet, being at that home turf, I think he can get it done, but just actually stylistically as well, with the volume running through the second and third round, if MVP can't get it done in the first or second, I believe it's Shara's fight to take ultimately. Now, looking at the main event, we have Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov. And look, starting with Imavov, he has looked the best he has ever looked in his career. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He's beaten Roman Dolidze and Brendan Allen by decision. I mean, destroyed Dolidze. And he looked his absolute best against Jared Cannonier in their 5-round main event that they had last year. The boxing and the clinch striking improvements that he's made already was good, but he just put it to a whole new level, and that's definitely his best style of fight that he does have. And yeah, he's looked incredible and definitely deserves to be in that top 5 now. And looking at him against Israel Adesanya, he's got very similar strike accuracy. Both of these guys are definitely accurate on the feet. And Imavov, in terms of durability, the guy has never been finished on the feet and has the ground game offensive threat over Israel Adesanya. But with all that being said, I'm pretty confident that Israel Adesanya is going to be taking this one. Look, Imavov, he is a great orthodox boxer, but Izzy's tools through his switch stance kickboxing style, it's just going to be way too much for Nassourdine to handle. He has not faced anyone near as diverse and dynamic within the striking as Israel Adesanya. I mean, Izzy, he is just looking so dialed through camp. I mean, I was fortunate enough to actually be at City Kickboxing at the end of last year in December, and I got to see him train, and he looked absolutely massive. He looked massive. He looked dialed. I mean, yeah, he has not lost any weight since that DDP fight. He is still just, yeah, a lot of muscle mass on him. And honestly, he could probably turn into this fight looking even bigger. I would not be surprised, like, somehow. But yeah, he's looking good. He's looking dialed. And even when it comes to this matchup specifically as well, it's just better for him, because going against DDP and Sean Strickland, in comparison to this, there's no emotional turbulence in this fight for him. And judging from what we got and that emotional turbulence he had in those 2 fights, this fight is exactly what he needs, because he kind of lost his head a little bit in those fights. And seeing him against Imavov, just seeing him as just another opponent, no animosity, I think he is going to be extremely dangerous. And granted, I think that Izzy and Nassourdine, they are going to start slow, because Imavov staturally, he is a tricky striker to go against, because he's got long leg reach but doesn't really use kicks, but then he's got very crisp boxing and a good guard, and he is powerful as well, you know, 6-0 with KOs, but he does have the takedown offensive threat if a fighter is to get too overzealous, and then he can shoot and just take them off their feet. So I believe it's going to start pretty slow. Both of them are going to get their reads, but once it gets going, I'm confidently going to be taking the guy that has the better striking, has the better resume, better experience, is faster, has more power, and most importantly, can stop the takedown offense of Imavov. That is the crux here. I mean, Imavov, I think he'll be able to have like a pretty decent first round, but I just see Izzy being able to land the better counter shots against him with the speed that he does have. Imavov is going to struggle with the speed that Izzy presents. He has not fought someone that fast. And then I just see Izzy gaining better momentum through the second round. I think he's going to start stuffing takedown attempts from Imavov, because Imavov's going to be like, shit, I don't know if I can stand with him realistically. I need to mix up my game as best as I can. Izzy starts stuffing the takedowns. Now he is not letting him get to the ground, and he is outworking him on the feet. That leads us into round 3, possibly round 3 or round 4. I think desperation and fatigue starts coming in. Izzy counter striking in hand. I think he lands crisp in an exchange and then takes Imavov out, drops him, and then TKOs him. First TKO loss for Imavov in his career. And yeah, it's going to be coming from the former champion. I see Izzy winning this and getting that one step closer back into the title picture again. Now, moving on to the Fight Card Awards, kicking it off with Fight of the Night, I have got to give it to Shara Bullet versus MVP. I mean, this is literally just going to be an absolute technical masterclass. The most unorthodox based striking, just techniques we probably have never even heard of that are going to come to life in this fight. I mean, it's pretty plain and simple. I think that this is just going to be so great, because it is so razor close as to who could actually win this, because MVP, he is the guy with the experience. I mean, he has fought pretty decent opposition overall, and we know that he is like a 2-hit killer. And then we've got Shara Bullet on the other side, filled to the brim with momentum, and has got insane striking and is fighting at his natural weight class. So it is going to be a very good fight. Now, looking at performance of the night, gotta be giving it to Israel Adesanya. As I said in the analysis, he is just going to be able to nullify pretty much all of Imavov's tactics. I think he's just going to be able to outstrike him on the feet, stuff his takedowns, get through to the 3rd or 4th after he starts picking him apart through that fight, and in the third or fourth, he is going to be able to give him his first KO TKO loss, and that is going to give Izzy the performance of the night. Now, looking at fighter to watch, I'm going to give it to Saeed Nurmagomedov, because this guy, he is underrated because he's got the Nurmagomedov last name and no one knows who he bloody is. I mean, he is extremely underrated. Very good, crisp guillotines. I mean, good wrestling, and doesn't really tire out, especially very surprising with the striking method that he has. There's just so many long-winded, like spinning-based strikes that he throws, and he just never tires out. He is extremely impressive, extremely fun to watch, and I am keen to see him for this fight night. Now, finish of the night, gotta give it to the big bear, gotta give it to Sergei Pavlovich. I think that this is the time that he gets back in the win column. Like, he's not fighting an Aspinall, or he's not fighting a guy like Volkov, who is looking incredible at the moment with the momentum that he does have, or in part kind of should have with the Cyril Gane thing, but I'm not going to go into that. Sergei Pavlovich, I believe he's going to be able to take out Jairzinho Rozenstruik most likely in the first round. I hope you enjoyed today's UFC predictions video, and I hope your bets go well if you are betting as well. With the bets, I will be leaving in the community tab my best bets. So I'm going to be leaving my 3 main card slots and my 3 prelim slots. So the best 3 bets that I believe in each position, I'm going to post that in the community tab. And then I'm going to see how well it goes when it comes to the length of these videos, because if they are shortening or short enough, I might put them at the end of the video. But let me know what you think of that idea. If I should put the best bets at the end of the video, please leave a comment below if you would like that. And aside from that, if you want to see more MMA based content, definitely check out the video on the screen, and please like, comment, subscribe. It really goes a long way for the channel, and I will catch you at the next one.